in the lead up to the State of the Union address, the Democrats continue to talk about sexual harassment and sexual abuse and the Me Too moment. Now, the reason they keep doing this is because they figure the longer they keep this alive, let's say that in 2018 Democrats take the House. Good shot that happens, right? Rodney Frelinghuysen, who is a congressman from New Jersey in a real battleground district. He's the head of the House Appropriations Committee. He said that he's not going to run for re-election. The indicators, if you had to make a bet, you'd lay a bet that the Republicans lose the House. It might be closer than you think it'll be, but that's not a terrible bet at this point. So Democrats are hoping that in 2018, they take over the House and then they initiate a series of investigations and hearings about President Trump's proclivity for sexual abuse and harassment, allegedly. That's what they want. So that's why they're keeping this alive. Well, yesterday, Kirsten Gillibrand, who wants to run for president in 2020, and she's really just a weak, terrible version of Hillary Clinton. She's not as good politically as Hillary Clinton, which is saying a lot. She's a bad liar, which is a much worse liar than Hillary Clinton, which is saying a lot. She goes on The View. Again, we're playing all these clips from The View. Guys, where's my invite? I ask you again. Come on. Okay, so Joy Behar is asking Gillibrand about why she stood against Al Franken. And she says, well, we have to put partisanship aside, and we really have to stand up against sexual abuse in all parties. And that's when Meghan McCain steps in. Now, Meghan McCain, it's really fascinating because Meghan and I used to be politically at odds. I think she used to be a little bit more left-wing, and I probably used to be a little bit more abrasive, believe it or not. And now I will say that Meghan has done a very good job on The View of representing an actual Republican position, which is something The View's been missing for a long time. Watch as Meghan McCain, with two simple questions, dismembers Kirsten Gillibrand on screen. It's amazing. I mean, these are not difficult questions to answer, and they're not difficult questions to ask, but she asks two simple questions, and she turns Kirsten Gillibrand, she reduces Kirsten Gillibrand to a pile of rubble with two simple, straightforward questions.
That is our job. Our job is to speak out, to say no to President Trump, to say it's not okay. We want accountability. We want transparency. We want Congress, specifically Republican leaders, to hold the hearings and have that transparency that we don't have today.
I just want to move on because there's some inconvenient truths on both sides. Reportedly, Hillary Clinton is under fire for covering up for a top advisor who was accused of sexual harassment back in 2007. She docked his pay and made him seek counseling, but allowed him to stay on. And women claim his harassment continued. You are a longtime supporter of the Clintons and consider her a mentor. Do you think her response this weekend was appropriate?
Well, as you know, I think these things have to be dealt with, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican. You need transparency and accountability, and no one is above criticism. But in that case, I don't know all the details.
Suddenly, she just is reduced to a quivering mass of I don't know. And then Meghan McCain follows up, and she asks her, okay, so, you campaigned with the Clintons. Do you regret that? And Kirsten Gillibrand, again, has no answer because all of this is partisan pandering. It's obvious it's partisan pandering. And how is Hillary Clinton not being raked over the coals today? It's insane. Clinton's campaign manager came out and she said, listen, I wanted to get rid of this guy, right? I wanted to get rid of this guy inside Hillary Clinton's campaign who is her faith advisor, Bern Strider, who is alleged to have sexually harassed the help, right? And Hillary Clinton's campaign manager in 2008, Patty Solis Doyle, she says that she objected to this guy being on staff, Bern Strider, and Hillary personally overruled her.
So, a young woman made a complaint to our head of operations about sexual harassment against Bern Strider,
Jess O'Connell.
Jess O'Connell, who's now the CEO of the DNC, against Bern Strider, who she reported to. The incident was brought to my attention, and I did my due diligence. I interviewed all the parties involved. I looked at the evidence. I looked at some emails that he had sent. I had looked at other documents. And came to the conclusion that there was sexual harassment involved, that the young woman was very credible. And my recommendation to the senator was to fire her. And I was overruled.
She was directly overruled by Hillary Clinton. What about the Me Too moment? What about Hillary and the glass ceiling and standing up for women? Where are all the women who are talking about this? I'm glad this is on CNN. I'm not going to pretend that the mainstream media hasn't covered it at all. But can you imagine the hubbub if somebody inside, for example, the Ted Cruz campaign, one of the people inside the Cruz campaign, had been accused of sexual harassment, and Cruz had just gone, well, no biggie, I'll block the firing. Right? All we'd hear about is men, evil men, scuzzy men, terrible men. But when Hillary Clinton does it, it's totally fine. And meanwhile, the weak-kneedness of the left on these issues is pretty astonishing. So Mark Ruffalo, who is just a political leftist par excellence, He was speaking out on AM to DM, which is, I guess, BuzzFeed's new show. And he says that, you know, all men have to make a safe space in our privilege. See, that's the thing. When it comes to stopping sexual abuse and sexual harassment, it's really about men making a safe space in our privilege. I don't even know what that means, but apparently you won't like Hulk when he's not angry.
When you're privileged, you have a voice. And right now, men are privileged. They have a privilege over women, you know? It's just the way it is. And so we have to make a space inside of our privilege for a safe space for women to speak up. And I hope, I'm hoping that more and more actors, men, will do it. But there are ones that do. It's just we need more.
What the hell is he talking about? Anybody know what he's talking about? And the idea that men are privileged over women in American society is absurd, okay? It is not true in the United States right now. There are many, many laws in place to protect women as well. There should be. The idea that this is about men providing a safe space for women. Guess what? This is more about women actually seizing the space for themselves to tell their stories about how they've been sexually abused and harassed. And good for them for doing that. But what's funny is that Ruffalo won't be criticized for being patriarchal, even though what he's actually saying here is kind of patriarchal. He's saying, well, if we just back off, we, the men, we have to allow women to be free. Okay, women are free. It's a free and equal country, and women have the ability to speak out. And when they do, and they do so in productive ways, we should support them. We should also speak out when it turns out that people like Hillary Clinton are stomping on women who are complaining of being harassed. Okay.
We will make America great again.